Cool little countdown. Welcome everyone to today's live stream. I'm thrilled to have you here and dive into the conversation about Emerging Leaders Program. It's really a game changer for MSP professionals looking to take the careers to the next level. And that's something I always strive for, getting your team aligned, getting to the next level and coaching them, right? And I'm really excited to introduce Glenn Bergsma here, one of our strategic coaches who plays a pivotal role in this program. And while we're exploring the origins of the program, the unique needs it addresses, and how it equips participants with the skills they need to basically evolve from managers or even engineers to really true leaders. I'm coming to you from Colorado. I just wanted to enjoy the outdoors. It's a beautiful day out here. Glenn, you're going to share some stories. You're going to dive into some of the importance of self leadership. You're going to give us a sneak peek and kind of some of the program, what it entails for our participants. So, without further ado, I just want to jump right in. Glenn, welcome. Can you kick things off and
Thank
share a
you.
little bit about your background and your role in the Emerging Leaders Program?
Yeah, no, thanks, Adam. It's great to be with you, and it's great to be part of this program. And I've really loved enjoying working with MSP Plus and seeing that evolution over the years. And I guess that's probably a big part of my background is working with leaders and organisations in helping them go from where they are to where they should be, and then where they
Yep.
could be. And I love that transformation journey and being a part of that, and seeing that we're in the thick of it ourselves in terms of MSP Plus and launching all that we're doing and starting new things and new programs like this ELP. So for me, my background, I've had the privilege, especially over the last 20 years, of working directly with leaders and organizations in all areas of sort of strategy, culture development, leadership development, change management. And that's been something I've loved. And alongside that, though, I've been active in my own leadership roles as CEO of companies and chairman of boards, and have had sort of that first-hand practice. So whilst I've got the qualifications and I've got that, I don't see myself as an academic as such. I see myself as a real pragmatic leadership coach, leadership developer who can come alongside individuals. Again, where are you now? Where should you be? Like, what should you be doing? And then what could you be doing? And that potential pathway, man, that is the sweet spot for me. And I've had the opportunity to work, as you can probably tell from my accent. I'm based down in Perth, Western Australia, which is the most southwest sort of point or area of mainland Australia. But I've had the privilege of working across Australasia, into Europe, in the US, spent a lot of time in the US working in MSP land, and love what I do, and love the chance that I have to come alongside individuals and help them win. Brings me great joy.
Yeah, awesome. And I've just engaged in the short time I've been engaged with you and learning about the program and learning about coaching our own team up. It's been really really cool seeing that. So
Yeah, great.
what's really inspired the creation of this program, and what unique needs does it address for MSP professionals?
Sure. Well, it actually comes back because a couple of years ago, Jameson West and I we were in a conversation. We were just talking about leadership and where the industry was at, and we're not a new industry anymore, right? We used to be, and I guess we are if you consider us against like accounting or
Yeah.
other more traditional service offerings. But man, some of us are getting old. Like some of us, we're getting on there in years, me included. And we were sitting back, and there was probably two questions that we were pondering and thinking about. And one was, do we have the volume of leaders coming through who are going to be able to take this industry into the next 50, 100 years? Like a really big question to think about. And, we're thinking about that, and we're going, well, it's a growing industry. It's a growing market. Every business is an IT business now. And we had some questions around that. And then the second question out of that is, well, are we doing a good job in training those leaders to win and to be effective? Or are we going to do what we did, right? Which was throw ourselves in the deep end, learn the hard way, baptism by fire, and just try and figure it out. And we said, you know what, there's an opportunity here to be able to come alongside that next generation of leaders to see them thrive. And that really was the birthplace. And then we then engaged with some of the CEOs, the clients that we've been working on, or the companies we're working on in ourselves. And we saw, what, we could do something here, that it
Mhm.
isn't just hey, you'll figure it out. You can wing it, fake it till you make it. We want to move beyond that to be able to be leaders by design, not default. We don't just want to end up where we are by, oh, I gave it a crack. We actually want leaders who are trained and equipped and feel empowered and confident to lead effectively. And that really was what was the catalyst for this. And I've been working with emerging leaders for the last 15 years and running programs to support them. But what we wanted to do is to go, well, that's great, but how do we then bring that into this MSP environment to be able to do something? And that really was the birth of the MSP plus ELP program, or Emerging Leaders Program.
Yeah. Awesome. And so, you said something really critical in there, leaders by design, not default. And when I think of that, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of all these stories of like, oh, well, I'll just hire a leader. Oh, I'll just do this. And really not necessarily have that connection and that, understanding of how best to coach and develop and so forth. And, I always like to connect with my audience through stories. And I'm curious of,
Mm.
do you to first start out is like, can you highlight a story or transformation some way took, or a group that maybe took this journey? Because that's hearing and seeing those results is really, really critical.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm not sure exactly where to start because there's plenty of stories to talk about. But and some, I'll be honest, some of them have been really challenging. But there's only ever been one or two where it's ended in a place where I've said, "Hey, I don't think I can help you." And the primary driver there, and I remember one, it was outside of the MSP space. He was a CEO of a stockbroking firm, and he thought he was brilliant. His ego was just out of control, and that was really hard. And I remember him coming to me, and he brought in Steve Jobs' autobiography, and he goes, Steve Jobs was a prick. Like, he was a real, like, he, jerk, and blah blah blah. And excuse my language there, but he was like terrible, and that's like me. I can be a jerk, and I'm like, yeah, good self-awareness that that about yourself, but what are you going to do with that? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I can just do what I'm doing. And I'm like, no, you got to learn to regulate. You've got to learn to go, okay, I know this about myself, and this is emotional intelligence, which is one of the things that we're going to talk about. You're going to know that about yourself, but then you got to regulate that. And by the way, you're a stockbroker. You didn't create the iPhone. You didn't create the iMac. You didn't create this something of brilliance that people would tolerate your nonsense because you were a genius. You didn't have that ability. You're running a company, and it was a company that was handed to you, and you're now handing it. And anyway, that's more of a horror story, right? That's not what you want to hear. But I've had the opportunity to work with some brilliant people, some young upcoming leaders. I'm mindful of one young guy, Brad, that started working with, and he had that passion. And leadership often starts with passion. I just want to help. I just want to get involved, and I want to win with something. And they don't even necessarily think I want to be a leader. They just are passionate about their area, and they have some technical competence. And I was able to work with Brad as part of a program like this ELP, and we were able to go, okay, let's get that passion, let's put it in the right trajectory, and let's surround you with some really good skill sets and practical skill sets that can help you win. So his passion would come across as his zealousness, if that's even a word, would mean that he would come in and be driving success and driving his team, and his team were feeling overwhelmed by that. So for him, we talked about, well, how do you move to more of an empowering style of leadership? How do you set clear expectations, build in the right support mechanisms to be able to help your team win? What does it mean to delegate effectively? And we work through these in really practical steps. to move from a militant style of leadership to a coaching style of leadership, where he's able to come alongside his team and go, hey, what do you need to win? You know where we're going. How do I support you? The 5 greatest words of a leader, I believe. How do I support you? How can I support you? And we're able to work with him, and now he's thriving, and he's gone from this junior leader where he's now stepping into, years later, he's now stepping into a CEO role of that company. And it's incredible to see that kind of journey. So, there's stories like that. There's fun stories. I found myself in the arse end of Kazakhstan, working with a group of Chevron executives. And man, to be honest, I didn't even know this place, it was real. I just remember the Borat movie, right? And I just thought it was some sort of make-believe place until I got assigned by Chevron as one of their coaches to go and work with these leaders. So it took me 51 hours to get to site. But I had this beautiful time. Like, one of these guys, he oversees 5,000 staff. He's got about $40 billion project that he works on, a future growth project for Chevron. And I'm there being able to come alongside him. And this is a guy who was so humble and so willing to learn that it made the whole journey of his leadership development just really fulfilling for him. And he was able to take what he needed or out of the program and out of the coaching, and to really see his team sort of thrive and continue on to great success. And I was able to work with a couple of his other colleagues whilst there. But man, that was fun. I had to try horse meat. I don't know if you've ever eaten horse, Adam, but
I have not. I have not.
It's an experience. It's an experience. Let me tell you that. And it was a crazy time, but it was great. Fermented mare's milk. Not sure if you've ever had fermented
Nope.
mare's milk, Adam. But nope. Yeah, good. I encourage you and our audience, don't try it. Don't go there. Just take that off the bucket list. But it's some amazing stories, but really having that connection, connecting with leaders, and seeing them understand their potential. And this is the thing: leadership's ultimate expression is in the development of other leaders. And to know that you can set a trajectory, that if I can find 1, 2, a dozen, maybe more leaders in my lifetime that I can come alongside and can inspire and connect with, and see them reach their potential, and their potential is in the development of the next generation of leaders. That's the next generation of leaders. Man, we get to play an incredible role in serving the future 50, 100 years of companies. And it's been a real privilege to be a part of that.
Awesome. So we might not be, going to Kazakhstan, but this event is virtual, so you
Sure.
technically could be anywhere in the world. So what are maybe some key skills that participants might develop within this program if they might be in Kazakhstan or wherever in the world?
Wherever they are. Perth, Western Australia, wherever they are, Kazakhstan, in the US. Well, we break the program down into 3 domains. So there's leadership of self, there's leadership of team, and then there's ultimately this leadership of business success. And they're the 3 domains that we're going to unpack throughout that 10 weeks. So within that leadership of self, we're going to be looking at things like emotional intelligence. More than ever, the ability for a leader to not just have the IQ, but to have the EQ, the emotional intelligence, to be able to lead effectively is important. So we're going to unpack that. What does it mean to be self-aware? How do I develop that skills? What does it mean to self-regulate? How do I manage the social environment, those around me? We're going to look at time management, prioritization, and how to develop some skill sets to not only win the day, but win the week, win the month, win the quarter. Looking at the internal world. And I may have shared with you before, Adam, I'm a big believer that there's a direct correlation between our external effectiveness as leaders and our internal reality. And I shared the story of my old mate who struggled with his ego. Like that was a direct result of his internal reality. He wasn't able to manage that, and that had an impact on his effectiveness. So we look at the leadership itself. Then we look at leading teams, and I like to call them high-performing teams. And to do that, it's about clarity of alignment. How do I get my team aligned? How do we create clear expectations on what it is that we're wanting to achieve, who's going to be doing what, and what we need to do to get there. And within that, leading high performing teams, we're going to unpack all the practical things of how do I delegate effectively, how do I manage conflict. We'll run a good amount of time on unpacking how do I have a difficult conversation. These are practical things that leaders can do, that can learn, that can either end in a disaster, or it can be a defining moment for the leader, for the direct report, and for the team. So we're going to be unpacking what does it mean to lead high performing teams. And then the
Yeah.
last domain, the leadership of business success, is starting to unpack some of that enterprise thinking. How do I, as a leader, even if I've just got my small team that I'm leading, or even if I aspire to leadership at some point in the future, how can I take a step back and how can I think about this whole enterprise? How what I do in my little corner of the world in my company, how that plays a role in the overall business success, and how do I understand what the pressures are of my CEO, of my board? How do I understand what they're thinking, and how do I then play a role? So we're going to look at things like strategic leadership. We're going to look at things like problem solving and decision making. We're going to look at the area of change management within that. These things that you can have in your toolbox, that as you go through your leadership journey, you're able to pull those tools out to be able to use and execute on throughout the coming years. So sure, it's 10 weeks and there may be immediate things that start within that first week, but I actually hope to give you tools that will last for your lifetime.
Lifetime. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
let's dig into this a little bit. I love how you break it down: self, team, and then business success, right? And
Mm.
so the program really starts out with a self leadership, and mentioned including emotional intelligence. But how does mastering this really make leaders more effective?
Yeah, okay. It's a great question, and I don't want to steal too much from the program, but as I said, there's this direct correlation between our external effectiveness and our internal reality, and so often the domain of leadership is around getting in check with ourselves, getting in check with how am I feeling, what am I thinking, what am I going to do going forward, and you can't do that just by following a script. You can't do that without self-reflection. You can't do that without saying, how am I, if I'm leading you, Adam, how is my bias? How is my ego getting in the way of me being able to lead you effectively to see you win? So, emotional intelligence, there's 4 domains to it, and I've referenced them already. There's self-awareness, which is good. And am I aware of who I am, how I behave, how I communicate, how I'm perceived? That's self-awareness. Fantastic. But once we know that, we then move into the next area or the next category, which is self-regulation. How do I then manage that? How do I manage myself? If I get angry quickly, how do I put in place the steps, the trigger points at those trigger points, so that I know that I'm not going to feel frustrated and then fire off a barrage of information to people that's going to put them offside? How do I regulate that and go, I'm feeling frustrated right now. I need to take a breath. I need to just capture my thoughts. I need to detach emotionally from what I'm feeling in this time and
Great.
put it into some good thinking and good cognitive thinking, so that I can respond appropriately to this. And we'll do that. And
Perfect.
we'll do a little bit of neuroscience there, and look at the difference
Awesome.
between our reptilian brain and our limbic system to our prefrontal cortex or neocortex,
Mhm.
and what's going on in our brain at any particular time, and we actually have an opportunity to influence that. So that's just a really snapshot. There's other areas of emotional
Yeah.
intelligence, but I'll save that for the program.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And so, I wanted to talk about a little bit. This program really focuses on elevating any team member, managers, really to become really great leaders. Um,
mm,
hence the
mm,
name, the Emerging Leaders Program. But what does this
mm,
transformation truly involve, and why is it so critical? We talked about that self, and I think it's a
mm,
lot about self. But do you have any other,
mm.
what the transformation involves, and kind of what critical steps are there?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And there's a couple notions that we've heard over the years. What one is, what's the or question actually, what's the difference between a manager and a leader? Like, and some people are great managers, but they're not great leaders. And and I think you can do both. I think you can be a great manager, and I think you can be a great leader. And the way I like to separate them out is, management is about doing things right. Here's what we need to do, and we're doing things right. We're sticking to schedule. So we're doing things right. Leadership, from my perspective, is about doing the right thing. So a manager might just be thinking, well, this is what we said we're going to do. We're going to do it. A leader steps back and says, is that actually the right thing that we should be doing? Or are we
Hmm.
just doing this because we've always done this? A leader is about, knowing, these are our values as a company, and I'm going to model those values, and I'm going to live those, and I'm going to set the example. Leadership is about challenging the process. So rather than managers who just follow the process and make sure it gets done and can do that really effectively, leaders make sure that that process is the right process. I meet with clients all the time, and they're sticking to 10-year-old practice that doesn't necessarily win. And if it does win, that's awesome. Keep doing that, but always stop and reflect. Is this the best thing? And then if it is, then manage it. Manage it well. But leadership is about challenging that process. It's also about managing is about getting things done. Leadership is about inspiring people and encouraging people to get things done. So that it takes us out of that day to day, these are my tasks, to lift our eyes a little higher and go, what's coming next week? What's coming next quarter? And the higher you go in leadership, the further your horizon needs to be. So for CEOs, you're not only thinking, month to month or quarter to quarter, you're thinking year to year, like what's coming down the track. And how do we prepare ourselves for that? So we'll unpack that, the difference between management and leadership, and how do we develop those particular skill sets? Because management, you may be kicking goals in that already, and you may be doing really well in that, but it's that next step about lifting our horizon, seeing our landscape from more than just what's in front of me right now, including the people in front of me, but it's thinking about, well, who's going to be coming through this pipeline, with employment rates the way that they are and turnover that can be high. How are we thinking about those potential opportunities and risks, and how are we mitigating them? That's the role
Yeah.
of leadership, is being on the front foot with some of that planning and thinking. And that's what I hope we can get out of this
Yeah.
program.
So let's talk a little bit. You mentioned some of those different things, and so I want to flip the script a little bit about, there's really some challenges to, leaders today and the challenges they face. And so how does this program help overcome those challenges that they're experiencing today? And what are those challenges even?
Mm, mm, mm. I wouldn't be surprised if the number one challenge that comes through the participants in this program is managing the tension between advocating for you and your team, and then advocating for the company. And in that emerging leaders, the middle leaders, even at that executive level, you hold that tension, which is, I want to do the right things by my team. I want to have their back. I want to be the good guy. I want to be. I want them to win, but then I want the company to win. And you have to hold that tension. And we'll look at how to do that. What are the practical things that you can do to be able to manage that tension effectively? So part of that will be clarity. How do I create clarity of expectation, that what's coming down to me in my position from the company, I understand where we're going, what we're trying to achieve. A huge one is why. Why are we trying to achieve that? And then I'm going to take that information, I'm going to interpret it, and then I'm going to make that real for my team. So I'm going to provide clarity as to what that means for my team. Where are we going? What are we going to do to get there? Why are we doing it? And I'm going to bring people on that journey. That's just one practical tool that you can do to hold that tension. Another challenge that I think all leaders, I've never met a leader that just says, you know what, I've got everything done on my task list, I've got nothing in my inbox, maybe I'll just take a moment just to stop and reflect because I've got all this time management. How do we manage time is a huge challenge.
Yeah.
And again, if you know, Adam, any leaders like that, then please let me know, because I want to bottle that secret sauce, because it's very rare. Most of the managers we work with, and I'm sure most of the leaders that, and potential leaders or aspiring leaders that attend this program, will be going, how do I get everything done? And we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at, well, there's two things you can do around time management. There's paradigm shifts that you need to make, and then there's practice. There's things you can put into practice. So for an example, a paradigm shift is shifting from the thinking, which is one day I'll get on top of everything. That's a lie. The paradigm shift moves to, I'll never get on top of everything, but that's okay, but I will get the main things done. That's just a very simple paradigm shift that we can make, that allows us to go, like, the pressure's always going to be there. And most leaders hit a tipping point where they realize that. But some leaders keep pushing against it, thinking one day. It's like, it's not going to happen. And that's okay. You will get the main things done and you'll do them well. So there's that paradigm shift. Practice, on the other hand, might be a simple tool that we encourage and use is an end of day procedure. How do you finish your day well and set your next day up for success, so that when you finish your day, you're ready to get into what are often the most important people in your world, your family and your friends, and yourself, and your own health and fun and life. A simple step, and I'm not going to go through it today, but is that end of day procedure. And it's 5 steps, 5 things we can do to close out our day, to set our day up for success in the next day, and just leave with a sense of peace, rather than sort of slowly exiting the office, hoping it doesn't all collapse on you on your way out.
Yeah.
And then, facing the day hard the next day, picking it all up again. So there's some of the 2 challenges, that I see, is managing that tension between my team and my company, and also managing time. There's plenty more, but they're probably 2 standout ones I can think of.
Awesome. So a couple of the questions I have on this particular about the program, digging into it in detail a little bit, not give away a secret sauce, obviously, but how does the program really blend the theoretical knowledge, the things that you share, and the learnings to with practical application?
Yeah, great question. Great question. And what I'd like to kick off by saying, this is a program that's been designed by leaders for leaders. No one who has their fingerprints on this program isn't actively in leadership. We're not academics, and nothing against academics. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my, post tertiary studies and master's programs, and loved all of that. But we're not academics. We're people that are having to lead day to day. And I think that's really important to note, that this is a program that, we will be unpacking theory, and we will look at situational leadership and all the different models of leadership and theory, but we're going to see it through a lens of the reality and the pragmatism of leadership. The people that we bring into the program, the likes of Jameson West and Tim Brewer, Thomas Douglas, hopefully yourself, Adam, are bringing in leaders who are experts in their industry, who have got years of experience, who can speak to the reality. So there's theory, and then there's a reality, and we want that program to be that good mix. That here's some good thinking, but this is what it looks like in practice. And then we want to be able to reflect on that in the program. So there's the opportunity for each participant to be able to go, right, well, what does this end mean for me? And then it's action time. And we are all about action and action learning. And it's actually one of the great things about the program is it's 10 weeks. So you don't wait till week 11 before you put in place action steps to start to change. You can practice day one in the, day one from that, following that course, to go, I've got something I can now put into practice, and I can now see how that goes and interact and test and see and experiment. And you may come back crying the next week because it failed miserably. It's a safe space for you to be able to do that. I don't think there'll be tears, but who knows? Or you can go like, hey, I tried that. This really worked. And it can actually be an encouragement to all the other participants as we learn together in this program. It's not a big program. We're looking 10 to 20 people that are in this space together. It's not 100 people all jumping on, because we want that interaction and we want that ability to learn and grow from each other as much as me sharing theory or expert leaders sharing their experience. It's that real good balance of theory, expertise, and reality of experience, reflective practice and learning and experimenting and action. I love that we've been able to build a program like that.
Awesome. So designed by leaders for leaders. Glenn, let me just challenge you a little bit on something, because leaders are pretty darn busy in today's world. And so let me ask you this, like, what does a typical week look like for participants in this program? It's 10 weeks,
Yeah.
sounds pretty intense. Yep. What does that look like?
Yeah, good question. And I don't want to say, and I want to say this from the start, it's not just rocking up to a 90-minute to 2-hour session each week. That's where we come together, and that's our formal space. So every Wednesday afternoon, we're meeting together for that 90 minutes to 2 hours, and that's a deliberate, intentional place to learn. But that's not where it finishes. There's homework each week, so there's some reading each week that you can hopefully do, in find time to do. Not a lot, but I would be expecting that our leaders would be spending, let's say 2 hours together, and then another hour in reading, reflecting, preparing for that next week, and also putting into practice some of the things that they have learned. And we also want to create a community around this. So we will have a chat group going where we can be sharing different resources as people are picking things up. For me, I try to avoid the chalk and talk, if you can remember that classroom environment where you just have to sit and listen. I thoroughly enjoy creating environments of learning where people can contribute and where they can push back and go, yeah, I tried that and it didn't work, and be like, cool, let's unpack that. Why didn't it work for you? What could we do differently there? But creating that environment. So, having the community side of it will be good as well. So it's a Wednesday afternoon. It's having that formal time together, and then there is an expectation that leaders will do their homework, they'll do their preparation, and then engage with the community and be part of that. So that does awesome. That give you enough there on?
That gives me enough, because leaders today are really super busy, and I want to make sure that they understand kind of it's a great safe place and so forth. One last question before I close out is, what advice do you have?
Can I interrupt you? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I just forgot something that I just wanted to say to that. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Time, as we've talked about, is important. I just wanted to say, sorry for brutally interrupting you, is if I've got to have a difficult conversation with someone and I don't know how to do it, and I give it a crack and it goes wrong, the time investment in trying to figure that out is huge. If I can learn practical steps on how to do that well, that investment in my development will pay back dividends, not only in that upcoming year, but for years. If you can learn some tips around time management, that can have a direct impact on the return on investment. So you might be thinking, man, this is like 3 to 4 hours a week. That's like, where am I going to find that? If the program works, which we hope it does and plan for and has worked in the past, if it works, you will reap the benefits of that, and the return on investment will be with you forever, going
Awesome.
forward. That you can learn those things. You can learn the efficiencies around problem solving and decision making. So you don't need to have 10 meetings to solve the
Yep.
problem. You've got your pathway, you've got your matrix, you know how to do the decision, you can be confident in the process. And if you get the process right, you get the outcome right. So let's look at the process to be able to get that efficiency. So I'm those that are worried about time. Sure, 10 weeks, some heavy lifting, but you should be able to get that back in no time.
Awesome. Awesome. That's what we're looking for. And so, do you have any advice for participants looking to possibly join this and maximize their experience in that 10 weeks?
Yeah. So on the back of my what I just said there, it go all in. Like again, if you're
Mhm.
just like, okay, well, I'm just going week to week, and it's like, oh, I get the reminder come up. Okay, I've got 10 minutes before the next ELP session, and I'm just going to join and then get back and finish off that and get back into my rest of my world and work. That you're not going to get as much out of it as in seeing this as truly as a 10-week challenge. It's not a 10-week walk in the park. It's a 10-week challenge because of the time impact, because of the impact on reflecting and having to come to terms with some of that shit that we all have and the egos that we have and trying to figure that out. But my encouragement to get the most out of the program is go all in. Um, and commit to this as a 10-week program, and finding space within your week or on the weekends where you can really make the most of this. Be prepared. So knowing what we're talking about, and we'll do a summary of each week and then a summary of what's coming prepared with your questions, with your thoughts, will help you get the most out of it. And putting into practice the learning. So when we give you a challenge for the week, which might be you need to have at least one difficult conversation with a colleague about an area you're concerned with, then actually putting that into practice. That is what I think can help to get the most out of the
Yeah.
program.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. That this really wraps up our deep dive into the Immersion Leaders Program. Big
Sure,
thank you, Glenn, for waking up early, jumping
no
out, and
problems.
sharing some of those insights and experiences with us today. And so we hope that, I can't even speak. We hope that this conversation was given a clear picture of how the program operates, how you can elevate your leadership journey, and kind of its unique value to those tech professionals in the industry, making them becoming those managers to become leaders, right? And if you're ready to take that next step in your career and join a community of driven, like-minded leaders, we encourage you to explore the program further. Stay tuned for updates. We're going to share a lot on social media, and feel free to reach out to me or anybody on our team to give you that more information. If you're seeing this video replayed, just comment leader on the social post, and our team will get back with you. And thanks for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing all you guys in this program. And Glenn, I look forward to seeing you as well. So with that, appreciate it, guys. Thank you very
Can't wait.
much. And thank you, Glenn. Thank you.
No problems. Thanks for having me.